Listening. Making America smart again. It's the Krieger Files with Dave Krieger. Are you tired of your boss stealing from your paycheck to send to a government that's writing checks its body can't cash? It's the government's worst nightmare. Dave Krieger.
And here we are on a Monday. And it's a holiday, I guess, huh? President's Day, is that what they said? Huh. President's Day. Oh, another brainwash. Yeah, you have to understand that the chief executive of the United States of America is the chief executive of the United States of America, Inc. If you didn't know, well, it's a corporation. You should know. So everything goes on in D.C. is the Article 1, because that is the executive branch, right? Article 1, Constitution, right? Article 110(1), the obligation of contract shall not be impaired. Come on, if you know your Constitution, you know what I'm talking about. Corporations fall under Article 1. That's administrative. That means the state, which is incorporated, gives you what it can take away. That is, namely, the incorporation. And if the incorporation wants to go bankrupt, well, it just has to go to court and go bankrupt. Well, the United States government, Inc., doesn't get to do that. No, you know what it does? It keeps borrowing money. Borrows a lot of money. And then they try and stick it on us. Seriously. They call it the national debt instead of the federal debt. The federal debt is the incorporated debt. This is what Congress has sucked out of the Treasury through the private money cartels over in Europe. Yes, you all know who they are. I don't have to sit there and name drop. And of course, government cost cutting now that Trump is in the driver's seat of the incorporated government. The opposition, of course, is filing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit to stop all of this, trying to play a guilt trip on everybody, make them think that Trump is a bad man because he wants to cut costs because it's leadership by example. I mean, Trump is very good about bankruptcies and all sorts of stuff. But see, some of the people, and I really feel for those people that are filing bankruptcy to protect their home, because to me, that's the wrong way to play this. Because if you file a Chapter 13 specifically, it's a reorganization for those of you that don't understand bankruptcy. Chapter 7 is total liquidation for individuals. And Chapter 11 is business reorganization. That means you owe somebody. That means you owe creditors. And Chapter 9 doesn't apply because it only applies to cities, corporate cities, who want to reorganize because they made some big mistakes in their spending. Well, the government can't quite do that because it's already so far in the red, it will never recover. And we're all stuck in it. We're stuck in it mentally because the government constantly is plying this garbage on us, telling us that $330,000 each American individual owes. No, we don't. That's your debt, buddy. We didn't, I mean, you made a deal with us, all these people that are drawing Social Security right now, and you say you government spokespeople say that we have 8 years left and it's going to be gone? What a Ponzi scheme that is. And you think this is an honest government? It doesn't matter who the president of the United States is. Well, I know a lot of you are thinking, Krieger, you're wrong. It does matter because, look what Biden did as opposed to look what Trump did. Well, look what Obama did. Look what Clinton did. Look what Bush did. They all ran by edict. They all ran by executive order. I mean, this is what corporations do. This is what the United States government, Inc. is doing. And we're all caught up in it. And the only way that we get away from it is to strip ourselves down and get ourselves away from the debt, away from everything, and become self-sufficient and don't depend on the government for anything. I mean, seriously, that's a tall order because all the contracts you entered into, I could start with a smartphone because that's how they track you. And everybody's got one. Christ, I've got one right here. These bloody ass iPhones, and half the time I got problems with them. And you get all this garbage that they program on you and everybody's watching every time you do a search somewhere. I mean, we are in the surveillance state, and we're gradually and very quickly approaching the police state because, as I predicted, they're rounding up innocent people when they're rounding up all the illegal immigrants. And I told you this was going to happen. People are going to get caught up in this thing. Now, if you have an employer out there and you notice that they don't hang out, you won't see illegal immigrants hanging out at Home Depot and Lowe's looking for work in the morning, like you used to. They used to come pick them up, and they'd all, they could speak a lick of English if they were lucky, and they'd pick them up and pay them cash. And a lot of that would go back to Mexico. Now they're rounding them up. So you don't see them there at the workplaces, looking for work, sideline stuff or mainline stuff. You don't see them out there looking for it. But as the government cross-cutting continues, the lawsuits come against them. 700 people, probationary employees at the CDC and an undisclosed number at the FDA, got termination notices over the weekend. Elon Musk critic Steve Bannon, see how it is, man, it's all working. And Bannon, of course, warned Republicans not to cut too deeply into Medicaid. There's a lot of Trump supporters out there that rely on the program. See, Medicaid is for those who are in such dire straits. They are medically ill. They are disabled. They have this program. It's called SSI. It's a disability payments. There are tons of people on it. Because why? Well, because the CDC, the NIH, the FDA, the USDA, and all these other little acronyms out there you and I both know are out there telling us we need to, eat whatever crap they put on the shelves. Yeah. Like the crap that Quaker Oats just now is recalling 10,000 boxes of. Pearl Milling Company pancake mix because of a milk allergy risk. Yeah. Quaker Oats Company, 10,000 boxes. And the Chicago-based company, Quaker Oats, is a unit of PepsiCo. Now, we should know that everybody's buying out everybody else. Mergers and acquisitions. The 2-pound boxes of Pearl Milling Company original pancake and waffle mix sold in stores in 11 states. The mix is formerly sold as, and notice they name it Pearl Milling Company, right? It was formerly sold as Aunt Jemima. Boy, you black people ought to be really pissed off at that. They took a staple that everybody, even the white folk, we all respected it, just like Uncle Ben's. We all respected it. And what do these people do? Oh, they want to play the victim. Aunt Jemima's not a victim. It was a trademark figurehead that everybody loved. The way things used to be. You want to know, where's the Aunt Jemima pancake? I mean, it was a household name like Kleenex, for God's sakes. Now you got to go change it. I'm just waiting for them to change the commanders to condoms. Yeah, they weren't satisfied with Redskins. They didn't like that because it was, you see all this woke nonsense? It's all BS. But you got all these formerly Aunt Jemima pancake mixes, 10,000 boxes of it, sent to stores in Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Minnesota, Mississippi, Nebraska, Utah, and Wisconsin. People with allergies or sensitivities to milk could develop a serious or life-threatening reaction if they consumed the recalled mix. And, of course, no allergic reactions related to the recall have been reported. And consumers with such conditions should simply discard the product. Yeah, the Pearl Milling Company. Yeah. And they even spell it in Spanish. Yeah, mezcla para pancakes y waffles. Pancake and waffle mix. Now you can use for anything. America's favorite pancake brand. Yeah, what happened to Aunt Jemima? That's what I want to know. Bring her back. Everybody loved it and respected it, and nobody said one racist word about it. You see how this country is totally gone upside down? It's nuts. And of course, now as far as job cuts go, hundreds of employees fired last week from the National Nuclear Security Administration who worked on the U.S. nuclear weapons program were reinstated late Friday night. On Saturday, demonstrators gathered in front of dozens of Tesla showrooms across the U.S. to protest DOGE, because it's run by Elon Musk, and their cost-cutting efforts in the federal government. Well, sorry, you whiny-ass babies can't handle it. I mean, we got federal judges out there. I'll get to that here in a minute. Doge is knocking at the Pentagon even. Trump has directed Elon Musk and his band of Doge auditors to start scrutinizing defense spending. Pentagon officials told NPR they expect Doge to begin its work there. Well, then you got John Kennedy, that funny senator from Louisiana who likes to talk like this. Yeah, I'm getting pretty good at that. That's how he talks. Yeah, I gotta love you, John. Trying to do the right thing. He wants to eliminate NPR and PBS because what happens is these folks get money from their subscribers. The subscribers go through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting gives out millions of dollars in grants to the radio and TV stations. And then see, in order to make NPR and PBS more operable, they encourage radio and TV stations to give back to NPR and PBS by subscribing to their programs and paying for them. And that is how these two government entities that put out all this woke crap, that's how they're surviving. Gee, I wish all of us alt-right media out there that are more conservative in our viewpoints and are looking at what's corrupt and criminal versus what's honest and forthright. I mean, we're sitting here on the outside looking in going, wow, leadership by example, you guys got an F. This whole government, it's Congress, folks. It's not just the president. You know, the Republicans right now are trying to repeal this law that basically disallows the president to come in and do line item vetoes on spending bills he doesn't like. And they're trying to repeal that and take that out. So now the Pentagon, yep. They're going to start dunking these uber pricey F-35 jets. Well, you see, this Congress can't have, because when you start slashing Pentagon budgets, who's tied to the Pentagon budgets? Congress, Pelosi. They invest in defense contract stocks. You see how that works? That's why Congress doesn't like it. This is how deep state operates, off the slush funds created within each bureaucracy. That's how it's happening. And meanwhile, we have to sit there and contend with high egg prices. Now, maybe they'll drop back to a more typical level, but here's the thing. We don't know when. $7 for a dozen in early February. Some regions, $8, some $11 a dozen. Oh, then, of course, they blame it on HPAI, the avian influenza. One person got it, and so now the whole government's got to panic, and the country's got to panic, and that's just stupid. All you farmers out there that raise chickens know exactly what I'm talking about. It's nuts. They killed millions of birds. It's crazy, and this is why the price of eggs is going up. 157 million birds have been affected, according to the CDC. Really? When did the CDC get involved in this? I thought it was the USDA that got involved in this. According to their data, more than 23 million birds, poultry birds, living in commercial production or so-called backyard settings were affected by the disease. So they have the right to come and just wipe you out. Yeah. Since the outbreak began, Iowa, Ohio, and Indiana, the nation's top 3 egg-producing states, have lost more than 55 million birds. Yeah. Yeah, so much for those signs out there that say, eat more chicken. Yeah. And here's the thing, AI is a big thing because you don't know what AI is going to do. And I told you a long time ago, if you listen to the show, that pretty soon AI was going to get so crazy and so fake. Generative AI can be used to create fake news. All these stories that say that customer money's not safe, or memes appearing to joke about security issues. And what does it do? It gets spread on social media because people just can't get enough of social media. They got to get on there and they got to watch every little YouTube video or every little thing that promotes divisive content. Seriously, is that what God wants? I was just reading a bit of Revelation over the weekend. Yeah. Oh, boy. Boy, we got something, man. You take the mark of the beast, look out. You're not going to heaven. Clearly says it. 666. Yeah, you ever played Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven in reverse? I've done that. Yeah, same with that Prince, that Purple Rain album, that Darling Nikki. Hello, how are you? I'm fine, because I know the Lord is coming soon. Yeah, try playing that record backwards. I've done it. I did it at a homecoming dance once for high school kids when I was DJing their homecoming dance. I said, hey, check this out. And I'm playing it backwards and spinning the record backwards so they could all hear it. And they're all going, whoa, cool, dude. Man, hidden messages. Well, AI-generated content, according to a UK study, is raising the risk of what? More bank runs. You see, the Brits, man, oh man, oh man. I'm telling you what it is. They're more woke over there than we are, so don't get crazy here. But see, when you get attorneys getting sanctioning $5,000 because they went and used AI to write their legal programs, and the real estate industry is relying on AI-generated content and marketing with AI. I mean, God only knows what you're going to run into when AI starts embellishing all these things about a given piece of property, and the homeowner goes in there and he buys it only to find out that what AI generated isn't true, and they're suing the sellers and the real estate agent for misrepresentation because what AI generated isn't true. See, and what happens when AI starts generating a phony missile attack? Then what happens? And somebody relies on it and say, look, we've got incoming. Yeah. What are they going to do? Get on the mainstream media and tell everybody to put their head between their legs and kiss your ass goodbye? No. They're going to start launching weapons. Thank you, AI. Appreciate that. Yeah, sad state of affairs out there, folks. Louisiana is going to end mass vaccine promotion, by the way, according to the Surgeon General. Louisiana Department of Health said it will no longer promote mass vaccination. Well, you know, I really feel bad for the child that went to school in Louisiana and was vaccinated against his will and against his parents' wishes. They bribed him, of course, scared him half to death and bribed him and says, hey, you know, here, we'll give you a dum-dum. You ever notice that when you go to Chase Bank? Well, I don't think they do it anymore, but they used to. They used to have those dum-dum suckers in a bowl, and you wonder who the real dum-dum is when you get it. Yeah, you put your money in the bank. They look at you. They're thinking, sucker. Yeah, here, have a dum-dum. Now he's depending on the bank. You see, we all take them for granted, right? I mean, this is the craziness. Now, I want to talk about this judge, this Jack McConnell. This guy is apparently, he hasn't met a camera he didn't like either. He's the one that halted President Trump's temporary spending freeze. He's getting over $100 million in government funding from NGO, for his NGO. Believe it or not, he's not some innocent bystander. His organization got $117.6 million in government funding for the year ending 2023. That's why he wanted that money to keep flowing, because he's expecting several million more this year. You see, this is all part of deep state, and our courts are in the middle of this mess. And pretty soon, we're going to be in a position, folks, because I want to talk about real estate and the courts and everything else that's going on. If you haven't been paying attention, we have a lot of foreclosures going on right now. I don't know if you've been watching it. 10.2 million are affected right now. We're talking about homes, not people. That is a big chunk, and it's about as much as what they foreclosed on the last time 2009 and beyond took hold in America. And we found out, and it took us until like 2011 or 12 to find out that there were these securitized trusts out there that were holding all this paper, allegedly. But when it got into court, they couldn't prove it. And you have cases like U.S. Bank versus DeRosiers. That's DESROSIERS. Perhaps you should go look that one up. That's a big one. That DeRozier's case, U.S. Bank as trustee for some ridiculous 2016 trust. Those are all third-party junk debt pools, folks, and you're going to start seeing a lot more of them. I'm telling you this because this is where I focus a lot of my research is in real estate and property law. And when I see garbage like this go down, I just get really insanely mad. I mean, the old saying was, hey, if you want to go rob a bank, just go buy one. It's real easy to do. But see, who can afford to do that these days? You want to be an investor in Old Glory Bank? I'm sure they'd love to have you. They're out of Oklahoma. They got a lot of, class acts in there like Larry Elder and people like that are all part of their stockholder chain. But see, I don't know if they're members of the MERS system or not. I know Banco ZK is not a member of the MERS system. I've got it on good authority that they don't use MERS anymore. But see, when you get a MERS mortgage or deed of trust, you look on your front page of your paperwork. If it says MERS, it means your loan was securitized. And this is what I'm writing about on my Substack page, which is davekrieger.substack.com. And I'm moving into part 6 of the difference between what happened in 2009 to 2016 versus today. And then I'm going to talk about case development. In other words, how and where to go do the research to find out exactly where you stand in all this mess. Because they didn't tell you this at the closing table. You went there and you wanted the keys. Now, I know, far be it from me. I mean, we're all happy here and everybody's just dutifully paying their mortgage until they can't. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the boogeyman comes at you in the form of an assignment of mortgage or deed of trust. It gets filed in the land records unbeknownst to you because nobody knows, because nobody bothers to check the land records like they should be. Like they should be checking their credit reports. That's why I got the credit restoration primer sitting up here behind me. So, you should be checking your credit scores. This is what they use to go get those bonds on Wall Street when they securitized your MERS paperwork. But you see, when you turned your loan app in, that Form 1003, go look. If you've got a copy of it, you really should go look, because if it says Form 1003, that was promulgated by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Yeah. Ginnie Mae. Yeah. Yeah. All those 3 Mays, Mac, May, whatever. They're all government-sponsored entities. Trump wants to privatize Fannie and Freddie because they're in conservatorship still, because that means the FHFA, which regulates all the sales of these toxic Fannie Freddie loans to private lenders. This is where you get all those 2016 and 17 supposed trusts that U.S. Bank and other shell companies are in charge of. That's what they're doing. And they're foreclosing on people. And people, they're none the wiser. They don't know they're dealing with a third-party junk debt pool that's controlled solely by the servicer. The trustee, U.S. Bank, HSBC, it doesn't matter. Wells Fargo, it doesn't matter who the trustee is. They have no involvement in it. It's all the servicer, and everybody's sitting there thinking they're dealing with a bank. They're not dealing with a bank. You're dealing with the servicers. When are you going to understand the servicers were behind the 2012 attack on our land records with all these phony documents? That's where the term robo-signing came from. The servicers are still running this thing. This is why Ocwen went out and got $600 million worth of securities before it was subsumed by PHH Mortgage in New Jersey. And those people, boy, they're a real piece of work. I got a lot of phony documents generated by them, powers of attorney that weren't notarized. Folks, you got to start doing your research, and this is what I'm going to be discussing in my upcoming Substack page, is where to go to look to relate to all of this stuff. Because if you don't know how to fight, you're going to lose. And then you've got these dirty, corrupt judges out there, and I'm sorry, you attorneys out there listening to the show, you got dirty, corrupt judges out there that could care less because they're paying a mortgage or they got their mortgage paid off. Here's a big case where we can create case law, and hey, we just paid off the judge's house. How did we do that? Well, we just zeroed out his little book entry. That's right. That's what the Credit River decision proved, was all they did was create an entry on their book, and they lent you what? They created credit out of thin air. This is what they do. And then they securitize that, and these investors gamble on whether or not you will go bankrupt in a certain amount of time, or you'll go in default and they'll steal your house. This is all part of the big land grab I read about on my Substack page, folks. If you haven't been there, you need to go to davekrieger.substack.com, and we'll get into case development in part 6. Alex Newman's going to be joining us here after the break. We only have like 90 seconds worth of commercials here, so don't go anywhere. Just listen to the content and understand that's what helps keeps us going here. Be right back with Alex. Stay with us. Dave Krieger here. Are you having issues with your credit? With interest rates as high as they are now, this would be a great time to invest in yourself by getting a copy of the Credit Restoration Primer. So when mortgage home interest rates finally do come down, you'll have already taken the necessary steps to get your credit score where it needs to be so you can move forward in life. Thousands of consumers have benefited from the Credit Restoration Primer, and you can too. Go to cloudedtitles.com today.
With inflation constantly chewing away at the value of paper money, perhaps it's time for Americans to bite back. Ownership of gold and silver coins provides great counterbalance to weaker paper money value. U.S. Coin Capital provides physical gold and silver coins. You can reach us directly at 1-800-878-2646, uscoincapital.com.
Need a document notarized even when one or more of the signers is out of state? What a faster way to close your real estate deals by getting your documents professionally notarized online at professionalnotaryonline.com. For more information and to book an appointment, visit professionalnotaryonline.com or call Aaron at 941-400-8282. A trusted Krieger Files partner. Good in all 50 states. That's 941-400-8282.
It's time to send another message to Washington. It's the Krieger Files.
Somebody might have to flex twice. Alex Newman joins us. It's always a pleasure having him on, writer for the New American, and he's got libertysentinel.org. God bless you, sir, for all the work you're doing. We appreciate you being out there.
God bless you, too. Thank you very much for having me.
So I hear from what you were saying during the break, you're going to India. What for?
I got a few people to go visit, a few things to go see, and God willing, I'll be back in not too long. So
that's amazing. Well, you were just in Germany, were you not?
No, I didn't get to the Munich Security Conference, unfortunately. No, I was supposed to be in Switzerland for the World Economic Forum, but visa complications ended up complicating that, not having anything to do with Switzerland, but other countries. So.
Visa complications. God, you got to love that. And they know you're the kind of journalist you are, and all of a sudden now you start having complications.
Lots.
Oh, my. Folks, you can read in between the lines all you want to here, but Alex is just, Liberty Sentinel. Tell me about them and what they're doing so people who don't know, besides the fact you write for the New American and other publications, what does Liberty Sentinel do?
We produce a whole bunch of different content, radio, TV, and print for a variety of different media around the world. We also have a free newsletter people can sign up for to stay on top of the most important news and developments on health, freedom, government, politics, geopolitics, international affairs, and on down the list.
And so we've been dealing with all of these things with Doge now. I guess I got to get your comments on that, too, because you're watching all these cuts and you're watching Deep State overreact. What's your take on all of this right now since you're so close to the action?
Well, Dave, this is something that you and I have both been talking about for many years. I mean, anybody who's been listening to your program or following our work already knew all this stuff, but it's nice to have the receipts finally and say, see, we told you so. This is totally out of control.
I didn't want to say we told you so, but hey, you know what? We are.
You got to do it. That's right. And for a long time, you're being a conspiracy theory. Oh, you're being it's not that bad. No, it's actually worse than you possibly could imagine. The only feedback I'd have for these guys is quit sending Doge agents in. It's time for the FBI. It's time for if we're going to have an FBI, if we're going to have a Department of Justice, they ought to be raiding these places and collecting the evidence, not just to come about with spending cuts, but to put people in jail for stealing our money, for overthrowing governments, for financing revolution, for trampling on our Constitution. These are criminal acts, not just wasteful spending, and I believe they need to be prosecuted as such.
Well, and we just reported this morning on the news about Jack McConnell, the judge in Rhode Island that stopped the spending, the freeze on spending that Trump was doing. And he has an NGO that's just got $117.2 million. And I'm like, boy, talk about a pot calling the kettle black. I mean, the entire system is permeated with this garbage, including the justice system.
It
Have you
is.
seen it?
Of course. And, I think a lot of Americans were confused. Like, where's all this stuff coming from? I don't know one single person in my life that thinks we ought to be castrating little boys. What in the world is going on? This is what's going on. They were stealing your money. They were giving it to AstroTurf front groups. They were infiltrating and taking over the government and using it to promote things that are absolutely insane. And by the way, this wasn't just happening domestically in America. As Doge is finding now, this stuff was happening around the world. Transgender operas and child sex change surgeries and gender studies in Pakistan. I mean, they made this into a global empire of perversion and treason and revolution and tyranny. And now, hopefully, over the next 4 years, we can wind this all down, punish the perpetrators, and maybe, just maybe, claw back some of that money they stole and reimburse the American people.
It would be nice. But see, now we're finding out from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton that the Soros crime network still controls a majority of local governments and law enforcement throughout the entire United States, partially because, as we all know, he's been funding these district attorneys in Democrat counties where Republicans can't get elected. And crime, of course, is exploding because of that. And I warned people that when they started doing these roundups with Tom Homan and ICE, that normal Americans who were legitimate U.S. citizens were going to get caught up in all this. And we're hearing stories. What have you heard?
Yeah, they're going to do everything possible to demonize Tom Homan. And I know on my program, he's a great American. He's a loyal servant of the United States and adherent to the U.S. Constitution. And so I think we should expect to see a whole lot more of this crying. We're going to see it with Kash Patel. We're going to see it with Pete Hegseth. We're going to see it with all the guys that are doing a good job. And will there be an occasional mistake? Of course, we're all humans. Everybody makes mistakes. That's to be expected. But I have confidence that Tom and the U.S. Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security will do their best to carry out the law faithfully without any kind of particular agenda or vendetta. And, there's also a lot of fake rumors going around that are designed to terrorize people. I just wrote about what was happening in Illinois. You've got the whole state government, all the local governments, the teachers' unions gearing up to literally block federal law enforcement. And they spread a rumor. J.B. Pritzker, this crazy governor of Illinois, spread a rumor that ICE was raiding schools. And of course, ICE was not raiding schools. And as far as I know, ICE doesn't have any plans to raid schools. But that sent terror through a lot of the families there. The teachers started whining. So we're going to see a whole lot of propaganda. We'll see endless, pictures of children being held at gunpoint. Probably a lot of them will be fake, and we'll only find out they're fake after the hysteria has passed. But a lot of this, I think, is really, really important. Of course, we don't want to go overboard. We need to respect habeas corpus. We need to respect due process. Even if you're in the country illegally, you're still a human being, and you have a right to things like habeas corpus. But what has happened here is not just illegal immigration. This was an orchestrated invasion designed to overthrow our system of government. And I'm glad the Trump administration has taken it seriously.
Well, and the thing is now AOC and other Congress people are starting to get in the act, too. And AOC, of course, took issue with Tom Homan. And Tom has been on this show, too. So it's not like we're strangers. But this whole thing, Ocasio-Cortez, I mean, she should just go back to New York and just fix my cappuccino or whatever it is that she's doing, because that's about all she's good for other than making trouble. And she's been accused even by her own constituents of doing it. But then when you turn around, I mean, you have Congress attacking Tom Homan. They're trying to do the right thing. And I think everybody in America knows that. And one of the reasons that Eric Adams is no longer facing all these charges is because he finally came to his senses and says, hey, immigrants, more crime? Yeah, probably. I need to do something about it. And so he tries to fix it. Next thing you know, he's getting indicted and charged with stuff. And it's just like, man, the corruption just goes deep, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's fully bipartisan, by the way. People need to understand, and I know your listeners and your viewers do, Dave, this is not a Democrat problem, as some of the media on the conservative side would like us to believe. This is a uniparty problem. This is Mitch McConnell. This is the old Republican establishment. The Bushes, the feeding at the USAID taxpayer-funded trough, right? Bill Kristol, the neocon who never met a war he didn't want to send your kids to go die in for the New World Order. This is a Washington, D.C. problem. This is a globalist problem. The partisan element of it is just designed to confuse us and try to neutralize any effective opposition.
So what do you think about, let's talk about, first off, since you're so close to the action here, how everybody's doing. First off, Kash Patel is still not out of the gate yet.
Yeah, and I don't think they want him out of the gate because he knows where the bodies are buried. He's demonstrated his effectiveness as an investigator. He's demonstrated that he knows where the bodies are buried. Of course, his book, Exposing the Government Gangsters, was really, really important. I don't think he went far enough, but, he gets it at least. And so I've got a very simple formula. The more the fake media and the rhinos and the Democrats shriek and scream and whine, the better the nominee is. And so you can see this formula played out in real time, right? They hate Kash Patel. They hate Robert F. Kennedy. They hate Tom Homan. They hate Pete Hegseth. Doug Burgum, oh, no problem, right? Sail through, very uncontroversial. Scott Bessent, oh, no problem. Council on Foreign Relations, homosexual, globalist. Oh, yeah, no problem. But the good...
Stop. Don't talk about Scott like that. My God.
That's great.
Oh my God. And now the guy's meeting with Zelensky, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I hope if the globalists try to stage an economic collapse on Trump's watch, Scott Bessent gets all the blame, and then we can come in there, kick butt, and bring back the gold standard. So
it's just insane. And of course, the Fed's not helping matters much. And why? Who is it in DC right now that wants to audit the Fed?
Well, the Senator Rand Paul and even Elon Musk seems to have jumped on this bandwagon. This is one of the hugest things to happen. And we've all understood from the beginning. Ron Paul always said this from the very beginning. The auditing of the Fed is just the precursor to the dismantling of the Fed. Once the people figure out what has been done to their money, what has been done to their economy, their life savings, they will be furious. And this institution will not survive. So we need an audit as a precursor to real action to restore honest money.
Yep. Because, for them to sit there, and I was talking earlier in the show about federal debt versus national debt, because they're trying to tell us that each person in the United States owes the United States government or owes the banks $330,000. And I'm like, you people are, that's federal debt. That's debt that the U.S. government incorporated took out. That's not our debt. Now, people who were supposed to get it, the ones that are entitled, all those NGOs, maybe they should pay it back.
Absolutely.
That's the way it is. I mean, maybe we need to do some house cleaning. But see, when you get Catholic Charities, and I thought these people were wonderful till I found out they were on the receiving end of a lot of this money that was bringing illegal immigrants into the country. Now it's like I've lost all respect for them, let alone the Pope. It's one of these crazy things, Alex, that we're sitting there, we're worried about our own paychecks, our own pocketbooks, about the ability to survive. And you got Bill Gates out there telling everybody we're going to have another pandemic. And I'm going, Bill, up yours. Read between the lines, Bill. We're not buying that garbage again. I don't think anybody is. I don't care about one person getting the bird flu. It doesn't really matter. Anybody knows that if you're dealing with poultry on a regular basis and you're wandering around in what they litter when you go into the poultry pen to clean it out, well, you're going to get something. But this is the thing, killing 55 million birds and to watch the price of eggs take off. This is all, you would say this is all by design. This is all part of food production, killing food production.
Of course it is. Of course it is, Dave. And I started giving a talk years ago on the war on farmers. This is much bigger than just high egg prices. Okay. I first noticed this, Dave, when I was looking at South Africa back in 2012. You had the president of the country on national television singing in front of 50,000 soldiers, "Bring me my machine gun. We're going to shoot all the Boers." Boer literally means farmer. Okay. What? You're going to shoot all the farmers? It's hard to think of something more stupid than that. And of course, Boers are also, the descendants of Dutch who settled down there starting in the mid 1600s. And then I looked at Brazil, and I've lived in all these places. I lived in South Africa. I lived in Brazil, and I started getting reports that the Brazilian government was seizing hundreds of thousands of hectares of the most productive agricultural land in the world under the pretext of giving it back to Indians. So I called the Indian leaders. Like, that's not our land. We're Indians of the Floresta, not the Cerrado. We live in the jungle, not the open grasslands and the plains. So that's not our land. Don't blame us. whoa, that's weird. South Africa, Brazil. Then you look at China. They don't even need an excuse there. They just, get off the land. We built you an apartment, slave. If you don't like it, we'll shoot you. Okay, so you got China, South Africa, Brazil. You look at the United States, the Bundy Ranch. You look at the terror that has been inflicted upon our food producers. And you look at the Netherlands and Canada and India and Sri Lanka. And pretty soon a very clear pattern emerges. This is an effort to destroy independent food producers around the world so they can take total control of the food supply and use it as a weapon against humanity. This mass killing of the birds has nothing to do with the bird flu. It has everything to do with starving us, controlling us, and hijacking the food supply.
Folks, and that is not a conspiracy theory by any stretch of the imagination. If you look at this, what do we have? Over 130 manufacturing plants all of a sudden just burning to the ground. This is all part of it, folks, and it's been that way for a long time. And if they can't do it physically, then they do it financially, and they virtually bankrupt the farmers. First, it was farm subsidies to pay farmers not to grow food. And it's like, folks, I mean, we've got so many people, and you've got the Jewish people over there, and they've got their little thing about, give us $25 so we can buy a box of food for this crying Jewish woman over here and wherever she's at. And I mean, all of this stuff is just nuts. It's all a heartstring tug to get you to, and this is a thing that bothers me about a lot of the stuff that's going on right now, is to me, it's a rope-a-dope to look away from what Congress is really doing. Have you been keeping a tab on the 535 brain deads out there?
Well, what's going to happen in Congress here, and we're going to start seeing these fights take shape here really quickly, is the rhinos are going to join forces with the Democrats to try to stop any real reforms. Now, Trump can do what he wants with executive orders and policy changes, getting rid of regulations, but none of that's going to be sustainable if Congress can block real systemic change. So Trump does understand, but he needs to go to Congress and start twisting arms, because we are already watching this happen. I don't trust Speaker Johnson. I know Donald Trump endorsed him. I would not have done that. I think he was hoping to gain some leverage. But I do believe that when push comes to shove, Johnson will actually side with the rhinos if some very critical interest of the deep state is threatened. So I hope that Trump's got enough weight now with the American people that he'll be able to get his way in Congress, because a lot of these changes are going to have to be made through legislation, not just through executive branch policy, if we want them to survive next time a deep state Democrat puppet ends up in the White House.
Right. So, I mean, you're not talking about this whole idea with the Republicans now that the media is reporting. Of course, MSM is always doing this, reporting the fact Republicans are trying to take and repeal that item that allows Trump to do line item vetoing. You don't see that happening.
Well, we'll see. And I think there's a great risk, too, that anything that the Republicans do that looks good, and here I'm not talking about all Republicans, I'm talking about the rhinos, but anything that looks good will actually be a pretext to sabotage the agenda and then ultimately further empower the next deep state Democrat puppet. They're hoping, I think, a lot of them, that they can just survive this 4 years, keep their heads down, don't make a lot of noise, don't draw attention to yourself, and then things will go back to business as usual in 4 years.
No doubt. Brady, you're on the phone with Alex Newman here on the Krieger Files. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. I was just wondering what you thought. I'd seen a video clip of New York City, and it showed barrios where all the immigrants were completely empty. And just like here in Arizona, where I'm at, one of my towns, there's no more invaders around. They've all crossed back into Mexico. So at least we're winning on one front.
So you want to know what we think about what's going on, what we're observing, whether all this is nothing but, news fodder for show to make the news cycle, or whether or not it's really happening. Alex, what do you think? Thanks, Brady, for your call, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, Brady. So I think Brady's observations are being observed around the country. What's happening, not that all these guys are being deported, a lot of them are voluntarily leaving. They're saying, okay, I've got two choices here. I can either wait till ICE breaks down my door and puts handcuffs on me and sticks me on a plane, or I can leave voluntarily and maybe cross back the next time there's a deep state Democrat puppet in the White House, and then my name won't be on a bunch of lists and registries and stuff. So a lot of them are self-deporting. We've really stopped the influx. Tom Homan put out some numbers just yesterday, I believe, about the number of crossings. It's down like you can't imagine from where it was at during the Biden administration. He actually said in his entire career he had never seen such a low number of interactions at the southern border. So around the world, the message has gone out. The border is closed. This is not a free-for-all anymore. Within the country, the message has gone out. If you're here illegally, you are at risk always of being arrested and deported. And I think a lot of people are saying, hey, I'll be out of here. Now, to be clear, I think there are probably still tens of millions of illegal immigrants in this country, and I don't imagine a lot of them are just going to pack up and leave. But we've made a good start, and we're only a few weeks in. So.
Well, I always wonder about the fact that, you know, some of the criminal element may end up at Gitmo, and that would be the last place I'd want to go, is being housed there. But they say they can make room for 30,000 beds. It's just like, yeah, but who's paying all this? Somebody's paying their way. It's the U.S. taxpayer again. And then, of course, come April 15th, they're all expecting us to write them a check. So this is one of the reasons why people are starting to look sideways, first off at the state government and saying, hey, what are you guys doing to stop all this nonsense in D.C.? And when these politicians come back to face their constituents, I think more people need to stand up and start telling these people, you're not going to get reelected if you don't stop this nonsense. But when you get there, part of the problem is I would estimate that at least 1/3 of our Congress has been blackmailed in some way through sex trafficking or some other, you know, going to Epstein Island and getting videotaped, and they're holding it over their head. I mean, Whitney Webb wouldn't have written these books if such a thing weren't going to happen. But apparently, you know, it's commonplace there. What do you hear about these tunnels? What do you hear about these tunnels under the Capitol? True or not true?
There are tunnels all across this country that I think need to be investigated and explored. Some of them, I'm sure, have legitimate purposes. You know, you go out to the Rocky Mountains, there's a lot going on there in case there's some sort of catastrophic nuclear attack. You know, there are legitimate reasons why we might want underground tunnels for military purposes and other things. Some of them, I think, are far more nefarious and ought to be investigated. I don't have enough concrete information to comment on that particular story, but I think where there's smoke, there's fire, and these things need to be very, very seriously probed.
Yep. Okay. Back to the administration again. Pam Bondi, your thoughts on her first week or two in office? What do you think? She's doing a good job, or is this more of the smoke and mirrors?
Well, I mean, it's not Matt Gaetz, but we're seeing some progress. I think Matt Gaetz
we only could have. Oh my God! Can you imagine that? Matt Gaetz as Attorney General.
Yeah, it would have been quite a sight to behold. So I think Pam has been a mixed bag. You know what she did during the Trayvon Martin case was inexcusable. I mean, there's no excuse for that. But she has tried to redeem herself. She's taken, even before going to work at DOJ, she's taken some really, really important cases on the transgenderizing of children by these government brainwash camps. So kudos to her. I'm glad she's suing some of these sanctuary cities. I'm glad she's doing, at least taking initial steps to start depoliticizing and winding down the weaponization at the DOJ. There's some really, really good U.S. attorneys, acting U.S. attorneys who've been put in place now. There's really encouraging resignations. So good things happening overall, not nearly fast enough for my taste, but steps in the right direction. Baby steps, but steps in the right direction nonetheless.
Now, you see, at some point, Kash Patel is going to get there. I mean, Trump is going to have to pull some sort of maneuver to get him from point A to point B. Once he gets to point B, he and Bondi can work more closely together. What do you see happening when they get together? Just your take on that.
Well, even if he just goes over the stuff that he was talking about publicly in the years in the run-up to the 2024 election, even if they just focus on that, that will be so huge and so impactful that it will send reverberations, not just across the United States, but around the world for many, many years to come. Signal to the deep state that this kind of stuff is not necessarily going to go unpunished forever. There's always going to be a chance that we might come back for you. So, yeah, I do think he's ultimately going to be confirmed. I think they're going to have to drag the rhinos kicking and screaming with very serious threats of well-funded primaries and things like that. But ultimately, I think he will be confirmed, and I think it's going to be a glorious day for all those FBI agents who had to resign because they weren't willing to target little grandmas who'd been praying at the Capitol. It's going to be a great day for those of us who want to stop the sex trafficking, the horrific crimes being perpetrated against children, against our country. And, you know, we really should be looking at this with excitement and also keeping our eye on it. It's hugely important.
Well, it is. And the circumstances are such that, you know, deep state, the more they scream, the more they put themselves out there as a potential target. But here's the thing. All these Congress people and senators, especially during the hearings, were asking questions and pointing fingers back at themselves, asking Kash Patel about retribution, about using the FBI's retribution, where for the 4 years during the Biden administration, it was weaponization 101. And he's trying to respond and say, no, there's not going to be retribution. But then again, you have him and Bondi both saying accountability. Isn't that a form of retribution in my book?
Well, I think there's an important distinction here, because what the Biden FBI and the Biden DOJ were doing was manufacturing phony crimes to target their political opponents. What Pam Bondi and Kash Patel need to do now is go after the actual crimes perpetrated by the people who were manufacturing crimes to target their political opponents. And there is more of that than they're going to have time to get to over 4 years. I'd say give a bunch of these guys immunity, target the higher, just like you do with the mafia. Lower guys, if you were just following orders, we'll give you immunity, but you're going to testify. You're going to tell us who gave you those orders, who paid the bills, whose idea was this, what happened in the secret meeting. We want to see the notes. So I'd go all the way to the very top.
And part of that problem is deep state is not going to tolerate that. And you're going to see a lot of people dropping dead because they're literally going to take him out to keep him from testifying, because deep state cannot allow this to happen, even if he gets in office. And I see the writing on the wall, and I know as soon as he gets in there, I mean, they've already eliminated a lot of FBI agents, and I really don't believe he's going to turn the FBI headquarters into a museum. I really believe that he's going to do a lot of restructuring, but he sure scared the hell out of a lot of people in the Senate, didn't he?
Absolutely. And look in Washington, D.C., look at the Google searches for criminal defense attorneys. These people are pooping in their pants because they know what they did over the last 4 years. They know that some of this stuff is not just regular crime. It's not just regular corruption. We're talking about efforts to overthrow the constitutional Republican form of government. We're talking about partnering with known designated terrorist organizations. I mean, these things are serious crimes. And you look up the penalties. We're talking, in some cases, life in prison. Some of these crimes are even punishable by death. So, yeah, there's a lot of people in D.C. who are not sleeping well tonight. All
right, RFK Jr., you think he's going to go after Fauci?
I sure hope so. I mean, he came on my show a couple of years ago and said we're going to go after Fauci, and we need to go after Fauci. But I don't think it stops with Fauci. Fauci was a cog in the machine. He was not the mastermind here. Even Bill Gates, I think, is not the top of the pyramid. We need to go higher than those guys. Yeah, they know a lot. Yeah, they need to be deposed. Yeah, they need to be prosecuted. But we need to know who is really pulling the strings behind the scenes, and maybe some immunity deals, not with Fauci, but some of the other lower level criminals could help shed some light on this.
I think so. And see, he'll go after Big Pharma too. And I know that he's not anti-vax. I know he's not. They all said that he was, but this is them painting a nasty picture. So that's one of the things that, we'll have to sort that out as time goes on. Pete Hegseth, finally, we've got about 40 seconds left. Pete Hegseth, your quick take on the issues he's having with the Pentagon right now. Day 2 with him and Sean Duffy, plane crash, helicopter. And it's just, God, they got their hands full, don't they?
They do. Pete Hegseth is a great guy, wrote a beautiful endorsement for my latest book. He deserves our respect. He's going to have a huge task ahead of him. The monsters don't want to be caught, but we should be praying for him because this is the battle of a lifetime, and he's the right man for the job. So.
Yep. Well, I'm glad that Thoroughly Modern Millie is out of the equation, too, because I couldn't stand him as a general. Anyway, Amen. Alex Newman, LibertySentinel.org, folks. For those of you, thank you so much, sir. Again, God bless you for the work you're doing. And we have Alex on from time to time to give us an update of all the things, because he's more boots on the ground than we are here. Just a little of us. He's got LibertySentinel.org. In the meantime, God bless you and God bless the United States. We've got attorney Andrew Branca joining the show tomorrow. In the meantime, take care.
Many Americans are growing increasingly concerned about the rapidly growing U.S. government deficits, recognizing the additional printing of paper money devalues U.S. currency. To compensate, American gold and silver coins will provide wealth protection. U.S. Coin Capital provides physical gold and silver coins delivered directly to our clients. You can reach us at 1-800-878-2646, uscoincapital.com.
Need a document notarized even when one or more of the signers is out of state? What a faster way to close your real estate deals by getting your documents professionally notarized online at professionalnotaryonline.com. For more information and to book an appointment, visit professionalnotaryonline.com or call Aaron at 941-400-8282. A trusted Krieger Files partner. Good in all 50 states. That's 941-400-8282. Dave Krieger here. Are you having issues with your credit? With interest rates as high as they are now, this would be a great time to invest in yourself by getting a copy of the Credit Restoration Primer. So when mortgage home interest rates finally do come down, you'll have already taken the necessary steps to get your credit score where it needs to be so you can move forward in life. Thousands of consumers have benefited from the Credit Restoration Primer, and you can too. Go to cloudedtitles.com today.
Broadcasting to the U.S. and around the world by way of clear digital audio, 22,500 miles above the planet. This is the Global Star Radio Network.